Welcome back to the show. It is Relationship Wednesdays here on KTN Life and Style. And guys, I'm just going to drink my tea today because we are discussing deadbeat dads. And what we're specifically discussing is whether women are responsible for deadbeat dads. Is there a role we play as women in creating situations whereby you have one parent that is not involved in the child's life anymore? And we are joined by Paul and Deadlis, who are coming from the Fathers' Right movement here in Kenya. If you didn't know, there is actually a rights movement for fathers. Yeah? Yes, and they're going to tell us all about their movement today and what they think about this. And then we are joined by Tatiana Karanja, and as you can tell from a big smile, I'm very happy she's here. She's a friend, but first she's a mom, she's a photographer, she's a social media influencer, and she just talks about all things, photographs, food, and momming. I think that's it. Yeah. I think I covered this. Covered her, yeah. So before the break, Dennis was talking about Fathers' Rights movement and how they help fathers, and how something that I actually did not know, that the UN has recognized parent alienation as child abuse. So if you're actually secluding one parent from seeing their child, you're taking away a right of your child to have access to a parent. But the question we're asking today is, are women responsible? So Tads, as a mom, obviously, I feel like by the time people are figuring that point where someone is being called a deadbeat dad, there's a lot that has led to that point. So what do you think when it comes from the woman's perspective? Do you think women actually play a role?
I don't think that it's fair at all to say that women play a role in a deadbeat dad. I mean, the situation is that if you're a deadbeat dad, that's before you were even married. Being a deadbeat dad and not being allowed to see your kid are two separate issues. Mm-hmm. A deadbeat dad will not even try to see their kid when you get a divorce, or even when you're together, you're probably just not even being a good dad. So those are two completely separate issues. Yeah. Now, the issue of a mom not allowing a dad to see their kid, or vice versa, that's something else. And I mean, I can understand that in a relationship, once you split up, you have no idea what has gone on in that relationship, what either parent is thinking about the well-being of the child. And of course, I completely agree that I think it's really terrible for a parent not to allow another parent to see your kid. I mean, child abuse, I completely see how that is crazy to me. I mean, growing up without my mom or dad, I just can't see that. But a deadbeat dad, that's a different thing. And there are also like you said on break, there are also deadbeat moms. Yes. I mean, there are moms who are just literally the worst. So, I think these are completely separate issues. If you're a deadbeat dad, that's before you even separated. That has nothing to do with a woman stopping you. If you're fighting for your kid, you're not a deadbeat dad. And that's a completely different issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then again, I feel like we have, if I were in a relationship, okay, me and my husband in this case, and he's really toxic, and I alienate him from the kid because I feel like he's very toxic to the end, I don't want my kids to grow in that environment where you have a dad, but he's not setting a good example. So if I alienated him, would you alienate me from the community?
No, basically, it's quite funny that the term toxic ex-spouse usually happens as an ex-spouse. After that divorce, that is when most people say that man
was toxic. Right.
But when the times were good, some people are, you see, relationships, it's a matter of power and control. So who has more control over this relationship? That is why when people break up, everybody try and to get the little control they can. Unfortunately, the children are actually the first option. Yeah. You take control of the children, demonize them against their father name, call him a toxic person, or call her a toxic person. Because we have seen situations where, especially, I was explaining earlier, in areas like Western, Nyanza, where people say that the child belongs to the father, that the mother is just a carrier, that if the mother decides to leave or the relationship ends, the child will remain with the father.
Right.
And the mother is actually told you go get other children. But how can you tell a parent to leave their own children go get? In a more affluent society, is that term called a toxic ex, because most of the time that toxic person is usually an ex. So the issue of toxicity or narcissism is usually a matter of that 90% of the time comes after divorce.
I've seen you smiling, Paul, and especially at the beginning when he was talking about how a lot of these labels of toxic and usually happen after the separation, after the breakup or the separation or the divorce. What do you think about it when it comes to creating deadbeat dads?
Okay, me, I think what happens normally is that what normally happens is that parents, you know, when you're in a relationship and you break up, you have to have a foundation to alienate that child. You have to have a foundation. You have to create something that will label this guy, or because you as Denza said, is that you're trying to get control. It's a power move. You're trying to get control of the relationship or the children. So what you do, you try to label that person as toxic, so that he can be. You can. What can I say? You can be able to
Get away with it in society.
get away with it in society, because you know people are looking. Okay, what people are doing is that they are trying to get what you called. You call it
Control.
pity.
Or
from people.
pity.
They're trying to get pity from people, so that at least at the end of it all, you'll be okay. I don't know. I'm trying to find the correct words to explain this.
It's because you guys are trying to be polite. Umewachwa. And everyone is talking about that umewachwa and you're now alone. Of course, you're stressed.
Yes.
And you're, obviously, with breakups comes a lot of emotion and depression and pressure. And of course, being a parent, you have someone who's dependent on you. There's no time to sit and wallow in your breakup when you have a child who's looking at you like, hello, life goes on. So now you have to then figure out how you present yourself to society, right? And that will be like, oh, let me label them as a bad person so I can look like the survivor, or I look like the better one. You know, I look like this person that's overcome this very difficult relationship and is, you know, bringing up my children. But then it's like, okay, with that argument though, Paul, I don't know, because there are deadbeat dads who are really deadbeat dads. So how do we, I guess my question would be, how do we look at situations and be able to tell when somebody has genuinely gotten somebody bad out of their life, because maybe even their environment was not good for the children?
But I don't think it's not very easy for anybody outside of a relationship to tell. I mean,
Right.
you could see a relationship for years and think they're the
Put
happiest
the
couple.
microphone closer.
Oh, sorry. You could see a relationship for years and think they're the happiest couple. Like, no one knows what is going on in anybody's relationship.
True.
And
Only the two of them.
Yeah, it's only
That's
the two
true.
of them. And, like, I think we shouldn't downplay also that the fact that there are relationships where people are toxic, both male and female. There are very toxic relationships, and the children do suffer. And then they grow up thinking that kind of relationship is normal. So they
Right.
even wouldn't be able to tell you that, you know, in my house, like, we're going through bad times, because they think it's normal. They're happy, they're fine, you know. So yeah, it's quite a different.
I wanted to know, from the Father's Right movement, how do you categorize these people? At what point do you decide that, you know what, it's your wife that was actually probably the toxic one, or she's just trying to label you? And how do you tell the actual toxic ones from the deadbeat dads?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's the hardest thing to do.
That's a very fair question. You know, as much as we try and fight for fathers' rights, we do acknowledge, and it's true and it's a fact, that they are deadbeat parents. Don't say deadbeat dads.
Because it's both.
Because that's
Yeah.
the normal thing, and the
Assumption.
easiest thing to label. But they are toxic parents. There's even both sides of the divide, you see. But, and for deadbeat people, deadbeat parents, we don't represent them, you see. All we do is that we try not to get into relationship, why a relationship crumbled, because it took two to create that child, and that relationship had two people. So it took both of you to collapse it.
Yeah.
It takes two to tangle, of course.
Right.
See. But as much as they are deadbeat fathers and deadbeat mothers, we try and focus more on the children's rights, because this is where people really get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's not about you, it's not about her, it's not about him.
It's about the
It's about the child. The child has basic needs which are in the Constitution, the Children's Act.
Right.
It is food, shelter, clothing, education, and Medicare. It should be around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And food, shelter, clothing, education, Medicare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's up to you to decide on how those responsibilities will be shared. I think that brings us to the topic, the issue of child support. The time society views child support as purely monetary is where we lose the whole thing. That is why we say that is where you and if you stop any person, you ask them who is a deadbeat father. He said someone who does not
Provide for
Maybe
their
financially,
child.
that's
financially.
true. Yeah.
You see, so that is the issue of deadbeat has been categorized together with other form of I don't want to say financial. Some people, there is a term called financial rape. You see that once we have separated the woman or the man, yeah, because we have cases like we are handling a case of a woman who is paying child support for a child she cannot see. Why? Because the guy was not working then, but somehow took possession of the child. You see, that if we look at it as a purely monetary aspect, that child support has to be monetary, we close our eyes to the more fundamental issues of child upbringing.
Yeah.
Because not like my sons, they need to know how to shave, or they need to talk to me about girls. You see, some things they cannot do with their mother. And that is child support, you see. But if we say that every time I'll be sending money, and then I'll not be labeled as a deadbeat. So we'll ask, if I'm sending you money, what are you doing with my money? Can you account for that as well? You see, because it's a fact that as long as you're sending money, there is no mechanism in law that that the person receiving the money should actually have an audit done on how you spend the money. Is this money going to my child?
How does it actually, yeah.
So basically the the deadbeat tag mainly comes when a man refuses to or a woman refuses to
give financial support.
subsidize the mother or the father's lifestyle.
Wait, let me ask you. So it means you can actually be in a healthy looking relationship, but also be deadbeat parents.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
What did I know?
agree with everything you said, except I don't know. You kept saying money, and then you kept using it as this small financial support. But then when you listed the things in the Children's Act, I'm like, all those things cost money: food, shelter, clothing, medical. I'm like,
Let me tell you.
that's money. That's money. That's money.
I mean,
So
your kid would more appreciate you in their life.
like being there.
Yeah.
then
That's
I mean,
all
I
that
would
stuff.
rather just have my parents supporting me emotionally than
Done.
paying for an ice
Fees
cream
and
or
whatever.
whatever. it is. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I mean,
that's
there are
true.
kids who don't go to school, and I mean, education of life. I mean, that that whole thing of life is education. That's very relevant because there are some kids who don't go to a normal school, but they are having an amazing life. They've been brought up well by their parents. They're feeling loved. They're feeling supported. That's so important.
Yeah.
In my house as well, it's been one of those things where with Wayne and I, having kids, it's difficult, and you don't know. There's no like manual on how you should go through life. But one of the things that we have come to realize is that the fact that there are lots of expenses, but our kids need us more than anything.
Right.
So no matter what we're doing in the day, no matter what like hustle we're doing, whatever, like at the end of the day, we need to come home to our kids, make sure they see us, make sure they feel loved, make sure they're secure. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter about the money that's coming in. Somehow we'll find that. That's not the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's after everything else.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
you see, the main question today is, are women partially responsible for deadbeat dads? And I feel like for the fact that that question came about, it's because people are wondering and people are asking. So for the 2 years that you've been in the Rights Fathers movement, I'm sure you've met cases, or you've met with cases where this guy is an absolute deadbeat dad. I'm only saying deadbeat dad because that's our focus today.
sure.
We're probably going to have another one about the women when that foundation for women comes, yeah?
But
So,
yeah, the
yeah.
big parents.
I would like to understand, through the people that you've met who are actual deadbeat dads, what would you say is their psychological nature? Like, what are the signs that you've seen, other than the fact that most people think it's the finances, What are the signs that they're like, psychologically speaking? Do they speak like normal people? Like, can I talk to somebody and be like, oh, yeah, you sound like the deadbeat one in this whole family?
Most of the cases we find some men, okay, there are signs which you have to look
Yeah.
You find there are some men who, okay, they love to create excuses, like just like women when they want to alienate a parent, they will create excuses. Even there are men who are termed as deadbeat. They will create excuses. They will tell you, they give you different reasons, like you know that woman was not right for me. We were not working. But they are forgetting that the most important thing is that it's not about that woman. It's about the child. You see. Most of them they create. Okay, there's another case I got where somebody claimed that aliwekelewa, hakuwa amejipanga. Okay, well, let me use the Swahili word, hakuwa amejipanga. That it was a trap. He was trapped. That he went into the relationship with a lady. Okay, the intention was just to enjoy life
And not to have,
and not to have children. And then all of a sudden, the woman comes up and tells the
Okay, that's
guy,
a really bad excuse.
You are,
Yeah.
I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
You see, but me mostly what I term it as an excuse, because first of all, I always advocate for people, if you are going to a relationship, make sure that it's a person you love. You're not just going into a relationship with somebody you don't love. Even this issue of, I don't know, one night stands, which is trending most of the time. You see, if you have to sleep with somebody that you love, or somebody that you intend to spend a life together. So that in anything, if you have a child or something comes up, you'll be better prepared. But when you find like that case I'm giving you, is that somebody just gives the excuses that I was trapped. So that's not my responsibility. I cannot be able to take care of that child because hatukuongea, hatukukubaliana, alipata tu na akaniwekelea. So you see, that's a case. That's okay. That's one of the psychological things that we have found in that nini.
Yeah.
But it's not an excuse ya kuto taking care of your child.
Of your child. I'd like to sample a few responses on what people think about whether women contribute to the idea of deadbeat dads. And guys, remember to use the hashtag #KTNLifeAndStyle. Let us know what you think about the topic. So, here we go. We have Stacey Samoy. She says, raise your son right, but you can only do so much. He is his own person. So yes and no. So do it. Okay, guys, seriously, like, help me help you, okay? But Khalif Din, this is a guy, he says, nah, it's a choice that we make as men to be a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's owned up, yeah?
Thank
The
you.
whole fact of even blaming it on women, like, that's so infuriating.
Yeah.
How can somebody even blame, like, everybody's responsible for their own actions, male and female.
That's
Yes,
true.
everyone. I have somebody here who said, no. I actually want to make sure I get this nose right.
Yeah.
No, and no. Next will be responsible for them even cheating. So she disagrees. This
Amen.
is Miss_Nyawira. Shout out to June, actually. I know her and she's a mom. So she's not just saying her own things.
And then we have Moses Kifwe. I think that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, if they treat the dads like they are nothing, for sure.
Somebody said
how do-
something interesting, actually.
That's-
I hadn't
that's
looked
weird.
at it from this perspective. They said, if they raised a deadbeat son, then yes, as a mother. Other than that, nope. So in that's a situation where this person feels women can be held responsible if they're the mothers of the deadbeat son.
I don't think,
But
I mean,
not
your
as-
kids grow up to be their own people. I'm not going to blame
I
my
think so
mistakes on my
too.
parents.
I think so too. That was Mumbi D. And then I have Skinny Filmmaker who said, for all boy child problems that lead into male child problems, women are never responsible.
Okay. Guys, the responses are massive and we love your responses. I'm going to sample a few more responses. We have M. Mutiga. He says, nope, never. Men need to take responsibility for their own actions and stop blaming women. And that's a man saying it. Oh my God, we're on the same page. Okay. We have, oh wow, this one was long. We have Sylvia_Rose_Wairimo. She says, wow, I mean, my feelings on this, the damage it gives the child, don't get me started. Okay, I'm out. Wow.
Wow.
That's a furious one.
And then we have greetings. So we have @Peter_Jorege who says, Roiro is tuned in on this chilly morning. What up, Peter? Shout out to everyone in Roiro. Ronnie Regan also says hello. Oh, he called us queens. That's so nice. And Mr. Hilary Kaptel, who said from Kaptel, Nandi Kautuni, he's tuned in KTN Life and Style. Shout out to you and to everybody in Nandi. Thank you so much, guys. Let's keep talking. The question is, are women responsible, or partially responsible, for creating situations in which you end up with with deadbeat dads?
Yeah.
Or deadbeat. Is the other partner responsible for when you have the other parent being a deadbeat parent? I think. Yeah.
And
So
then
we
there's
make it
just one more I'd
gender
like to
neutral.
say. There's a lady who said, let's be done with the blame game. He saw a responsibility and took it as a liability.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
like
honey,
it. Rap game strong.
I'm telling you, I have scientists on my social
I'm
feed.
telling you.
Some intelligent human beings.
You know, the way, obviously how pregnancy works, right? So when you have the entertainment, you can
I like
confirm
how you
whether
said
this is true or not, because
a
I don't have a
mom.
child of my own currently. But the woman, because she physically carries the child, has this time period where she psychologically gets ready for the baby, because her body is as well. So even if you weren't there, your body kind of is like, yo, this is happening. This child is coming. Now, men don't have that physical reaction. Although I read recently that some of them do. There's actually a syndrome. Yes, there's actually a syndrome where the father of a child, even if they're far away, can get morning sickness, can get aches and pains, can have a baby brain where they forget things. Guys, this is a real thing. I'm not making this up. It's an actual thing that happens to fathers. So what I'm wondering though is, for the situation in which a man doesn't have those physical changes happening in the body, is it that men don't have those 9 months to mentally prepare?
What do you mean? That's a whole lot of 9 months.
But that's why I'm like, is it that they switch off? Because I'm like, especially for the parents that choose, I'm a deadbeat, like now for real me, I don't want the story of this child. I don't want the story of this relationship. I'm leaving. No, finish, cancel, like it never happened. In such situations, I'm like, but there was that whole 9 months. What did you think was going to happen?
You know, I guess the pressure can actually really get to you. I mean, as a parent, like you just don't expect, even like the first few months, you
Put it closer.
you just can't expect whatever. Even if you're the mom and you've held that baby for 9 months, whatever happens after you give birth, you do not expect any of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's hard, and it's
Wow.
like just the hardest thing you'll ever have to go through as parents together. So I mean, there is that pressure, and then you just, you realize, oh God, like this is life. This is what my life is gonna be like for the rest of my life. Like you don't have a single second to yourself. And I think especially as men, like I'm not putting blame on men, but especially as men, like it's a lot harder to fathom that like you have to be there for somebody 24/7. I don't know, in my opinion, that's like the experience that I've seen
Yeah.
regularly. But even as a mom, you just feel more attached because you're like the one breastfeeding. I don't know, you feel more attached to your baby. Like you can't go out and do anything.
Right.
And men kind of live their life normally. Like they'll go out and have that drink with your friends or whatever. And as a woman, you're at home like, but why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just I think it's just very difficult when you have a baby and it's very easy for a man or a woman to be like, you know what, I need to slide out of this. As much as I prepared myself for 9 months, this is not what I expected. It's a lot harder than I expected. I'm gonna get out before it gets too deep. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think it's easy to kind of
just decide.
And
Well,
I
we're
think-
going to take a break, but we'll be back. Hold on to that thought today. Guys, keep it here on KTN Life and Style. We are discussing deadbeat parents. Let us know what you think using the hashtag KTN Life and Style. Who do you think it is? Who do you think is to blame when these situations arise? And also let us know what you think can be done about it using the hashtag KTN Life and Style. Like I said, see you after the break.